What lecture is this? These are brand new slides. These are all mystery slides. All right, this is a 74-year-old white male that comes in for examination complaining about reduced vision. You guys want the lights up or down a little bit? Okay. All right, so what did I say? 70-something-year-old with blurred vision. Okay. All right, this way. Where is the problem at? Okay, it's in the posterior segment, and it's in the macula. Okay, so the next thing you should start thinking about is what? What kind of stuff happens in the macula? All right, macular degeneration. What else have we talked about that happens in the macula? Cystoid macular edema, vitreomacular traction syndromes, macular holes, diabetic macular edema. You could have somebody who's got an inherited disorder that could be in the macula. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is a 74-year-old, so it's an older person. So what kinds of stuff would we be thinking about with them? All right, macular degeneration is going to go to the top of the list. All right, so now, macular degeneration, what's your next thing you need to think about in your flow chart in your computer up here? All right, wet or dry. Okay. All right, I heard through the grapevine that you guys said the midterm was everything was yellow spots. It looked like yellow spots. They all had yellow spots. Okay, we got yellow spots here. All right, so what can be yellow in the macula? Drusen. Okay, so now what's the next thing? What? All right, size and how many? Okay, so what are we thinking about then with size? Smalls, mediums, and larges. That's how we grade them. All right, so these are big boys. Okay, so these are big drusen. Okay, so what's the other name for big drusen? Okay, soft. Okay, they call them soft because the edges are fuzzy when you look at them. So big drusen, large drusen, and soft drusen are synonymous, same diff. Okay, so when we're looking at this, what's our marker that we're grading size by? Okay, vein at the edge of the disc. All right, so there's your vein at the edge of the disc. Okay, how big is that vein at the edge of the disc? Ballparkish. How many microns? 125. All right, so if that's 125 microns, how big are them? Yeah, way bigger than 125. So this is no doubt large drusen. Okay, so what's the next thing we think about when we have large drusen? Okay, you can get fluid with it, so that's back up at the wet and dry thing. Okay, so how are you going to decide if this is wet or dry? All right, neovascularization. All right, blood. Okay, edema. Okay, and exudates. So how do you tell the yellow stuff that you've got here from exudates? Okay, you guys remember when I was talking in class about exudates being a bathtub ring? Cha-ching. That was the cash register going off. Okay, so if you've got something that's leaking, it generally is going to spread out in a circle around it. Okay, so it's usually going to be in a circular pattern or a semicircular pattern. So you got something in the middle that leaks out. You can have either leakage. Okay, what are the yellow spots with exudates? Do you guys remember? Okay, it's lipids, some proteins mixed in, some fibrin mixed in. It's a combination of stuff, but it's basically lipids that have leaked out of the blood vessels. They're going to leak out in a circle. All right, does that look circular? Okay. It's kind of here, there, and everywhere. Okay? Okay, you got a whole clump of them in here, but it's not like it's a ring. It's not like it's a ring. So think about it like a bathtub ring, because that's essentially what it is. Okay? Now with a bathtub ring, you can either have water in the bathtub, or you can just have a grungy bathtub that's got a ring around the edge of it. There can either be fluid with it, or there can be no fluid. You still get the ring pattern. You just either have it with or without fluid. All right, does that look like it's in a ring? No. All right, so if you were to see fluid, you're going to have leakage here, and then it's going to get pushed out to the edge is where the exudates are going to be. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so does this look like there's been lipid leaked out of there? Okay, no. Okay, now, the things that you guys were telling me earlier, neovascularization, edema, blood, what is that going to do to the macula when you take a look at it? It's going to do what? It's going to be elevated. So when you guys stick your 78 or your 90 or whatever your lens of the month is up there to take a look, that's where you get this direction. It's going to be elevated to you. Okay, what if you can't tell? Sarah, what do we do when we can't tell? What did we do with the lady that I saw yesterday? I did use my 78, but I'm having her back for an OCT. So if you're not sure, you have her back for an OCT, or you have your patient back in for an OCT to tell whether there's fluid underneath there.
How often are you not sure? Does that come around pretty often?
Not frequently. If you've got a bunch of drusen that are piled up, you can get, the drusen can be thick enough where you can see the elevation. So it's going to make it look elevated to you. Yeah.
Won't you always get an SET anyway?
Not necessarily. I mean, you don't. Not necessarily.
If you saw that on the funnest photo there, would you know that was elevated?
You can't really tell from this. So if you said do an OCT, fine. That's fine. Okay. Anything else that you notice here? And you guys back in the back may not be able to see this. What's the stuff right there? Okay, that's pigment. Okay, so you've got large drusen and pigment. So the pigment is starting to shift around. Okay, so let's say that this is flat when you take a look at it. These little spots that are right there. Okay, for you guys who are in the front, can you see the little dots that are right there? Okay, what are those? They're yellow. Just little tiny spots here. These are drusen too. What's the difference between those and those? Small. Okay, these are small ones. There you go. All right, if you think about a vein at the edge of the disc, how big does a drusen have to be 125 microns? Not that big. It's really pretty small. So unless you have tiny pinpoint ones, it's probably going to be at a level that they get what is the recommendation? Vitamins. There you go. Okay, if you want to sum up macular degeneration really quickly, wet or dry? Okay, if it's wet, what do we do with wet? We're going to refer to retina. All right, and they're going to start getting injections, the anti-VEGF injections. Okay, if it's dry, what's the next thing that we have to decide? Vitamins or not? Okay, and we decide vitamins by size of the drusen, or if they've got medium-sized drusen, if they've got a boatload of them. That's your call on the follow-up. Now with these, the bigger the drusen are, the more likely you are to get neovascularization with it. So you would look at this one as being somebody who would be at high risk for having neo. So to answer your question, you might want to have that person back a little bit sooner. Okay, what else do we tell that person to do? Amsler grid. So you hand them an Amsler grid, you tell them start taking the vitamins, and then you decide when you're going to see them back. Yes?
Can you remind us why the vitamins work? Is that to prevent the neo, or is that what?
Okay, you're talking about pathology now. Okay, so if you look at the process for macular degeneration, all right, the photoreceptors have the highest level of oxygen utilization of any cells in your body. Okay, if you've got a high oxygen utilization, that can lead to having free radicals. Okay, so you've got O negative floating around because of the respiration. You've got high oxygen concentrations, and free radicals are very toxic. Okay, so the vitamins are basically free radical scavengers. So the idea is that you're trying to gobble up the excess free radicals that are there. And I'm guessing by that question, Dr. Pucker didn't cover this. Okay, let me back up, because I really didn't cover a lot of the pathology because Dr. Pucker had my slides to cover it in micro. All right, in a nutshell, what happens with macular degeneration? Over the course of your lifetime, light is toxic to the retina. Now, that seems kind of weird, but it is. All right, the more, remember what happens in the cell cycle. All right, the photoreceptors have the little coins stacked up. Okay, the discs shed off, they go down into the RPE. The RPE does its thing and then shifts them back again into the retina. What happens in the RPE as you get older is you get more stuff coming out, and a lot of the stuff is lipid. From the photoreceptor disc have a high lipid concentration. So it gets down into the RPE, and basically the RPE gets gummed up. And it's got more stuff there than it can handle. As it gets more stuff than it can handle, the stuff begins to ooze out. And it oozes out underneath the RPE as drusen. The drusen kind of sit there, and then you get a low-grade inflammatory response that comes in, and you've got complement that binds to drusen. Now, at this point, you got two things that can happen. Okay, so the drusen are sitting underneath the RPE, or in some cases above, and you've got a RPE that's sick and not working well. So one of two things can happen at that point. What do you think the RPE and the retina are doing right now? Basically, they're sending a signal out, help me, I'm in trouble. Okay, what is that signal saying? I don't have enough oxygen getting to the retina. I've got really high oxygen demand. I'm not able to recycle the way that I'm supposed to. So it sends a signal out to VEGF. If you get an excess amount of VEGF that develops, VEGF does its thing and it grows new blood vessels. So basically, in a nutshell, in dry ARM, what happens is the RPE dies off faster than that VEGF signal gets sent. In wet ARM, the signal is high enough that you get more VEGF than you have RPE dying off, and you get the signal to the choriocapillaris, hey, grow blood vessels. That's what you do. And the whole idea is you're trying to get more oxygen back up to the retina, which is in trouble. Does that make sense? That's it in a nutshell. And it's one of these seesaw things, and it depends on which way it goes. If the RPE is dying off faster than that VEGF signal is getting sent, you tip over towards the direction of dry ARM. And that's 80% of people who have it. If the VEGF signal predominates, it tips over in the direction of neovascularization. And that's basically it in a nutshell in terms of pathology. And when you get back to what's actually going on, part of the problem is you've got an excess of free radicals that are hanging around, and you need to get rid of the free radicals. So the vitamins are basically free radical scavengers. So they go in and they have the ability to bind to those free radicals and get them out of there so that they're not toxic.
So do the vitamins slow the progression as far as